Hey guys, we're back with the notes for 3.9, which is writing an equation from a table and deciding if it is direct variation. So the first thing I want to talk about is knowing what direct variation means. Can you please write the definition that you see in pink? Okay. Direct variation means that you have the equation y equals kx. You can think k and m are pretty much the exact same thing, but you'll notice that there's no b. That means that direct variation goes through the origin. Okay, so the easiest way to tell if you have direct variation would be to always divide the y by the x and see if it gives you the same k for every single value in your table. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's go ahead and look at the first problem. Okay, we're going to divide all of our y by x. So if I do 30 divided by negative 0.2, let's type that in our calculator and see what we get. I'm going to do 30 divided by a negative 0.2. I end up getting a negative 150, so I'm going to write that down here. If we get negative 150 for every single point here, then that means that we have direct variation. So let's check the next one. I'm going to do 300, that's my y, divided by a negative 2. Typing that into my calculator. 300 divided by a negative 2. Still good so far. You do need to check every single one though. So our next one is going to be negative 75 divided by 0.5. So negative 75 divided by 0.5. Oops. Negative 75 divided by 0.5. All right, we're still good there. Negative 6 divided by 0.04. So negative 6 divided by 0.04. All right, it's looking like a win so far. We hope this last one works. We're going to do negative 67.5 divided by 0.45. So negative 67.5 divided by 0.45. And because that one came out to be negative 150 also, that means yes, we do have direct variation. I would always encourage you to check for direct variation first. And if that doesn't work, then we'll talk about how to find the other option for an equation, okay? All right, so if this value right here is my k, and I need to write the equation y equals kx, then I'm going to take this number, 150, plug it into this equation for k, and my answer becomes y equals a negative 150x. And that's it. That's what direct variation means. You have the same k value for everything, plug it into my final answer. Okay? All right, let's check number 2 for direct variation. Instead of writing all of them out, I'm going to go straight into the calculator and type those in. Make sure that you are doing the y line, this is your top number, and you are dividing it by this number, okay? All right, so let's start with, we're going to do negative 5 divided by negative 60. Oops, let's do that again. Negative 5 divided by a negative 60. We get 1 over 12. All right, so that's my number. If that's what I get for every single one, then I know that it's direct variation. All right, so if I have a negative 2 divided by a negative 24, that one works. Obviously, 1 divided by 12 is 1/12. Let's do 2 divided by 24, 1/12 again, and 3 divided by 36, again 1/12. So again, if that's my k, and all of them came out to be the same, then I take my k, I plug it into that equation, and I write it out. Y equals 1 over 12x. Okay? So far, so good. Really, you just have to see if all of the numbers come out to be the same. Okay? All right, let's move down and check number 3. If you missed anything on this area, please pause it, copy it before we move on. Okay. All right, so moving on to number 3. Number 3, if I start trying to divide this right off the bat, 13 divided by 1 is going to be 13, right? And 25 divided by 5 is going to be 5. Those do not have the same k, all right? So I'm going to go right at the bat, and I'm going to say no, it's not direct variation. That means that I'm going to have to find my equation a different way. If I am not able to find it using direct variation, then that means I have to go old school. I have to figure out what my slope is. Okay, all right, so remember that your formula for slope is taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if I'm finding my slope here, looks like if I subtract my y's, I'm going to do 25 minus 22. Okay, so I'm doing this way, over 5 minus 4. So I'm subtracting the same way this time on the x's. Okay, let's type that in your calculator over here. I'm going to go ahead and do control divide, make my fraction. 25 minus 22 over 5 minus 4 should give us a slope of 3. All right, so I'm going to make a note of that. My slope, my m, is 3. Now I'm going to show you kind of a shortcut way to find out what your b is. Okay, so if I'm looking back here, let me move this way just a little bit. I notice that every single time I move backwards, I'm going down 3, right? I'm subtracting 3. If I go another jump, I go down 3. If I go another jump, this time I go down 6. Let's see if we can figure out why. If I look on the top, looks like I'm going down 1, down 1. Oh, this time I'm going down 2. Well, that makes sense. If I go down twice, that's why I went down minus 6. What we're trying to do, and let me maybe erase this and make a new goal for us. Our goal is to find 0 and our b. So if I notice that my pattern, every time I went down 1, I went minus 3. Let's think about if we did that one more time. If I went one more time, minus 1, I would land on a 0, correct? Well, if I go one more time as a minus 3, what is 13 minus 3? That should be a 10. That right there means that I have found what my y-intercept is. My b is a 10. So let's put that together in an equation. My equation then is y equals mx, so my m is a 3x, and then I found my b as a 10, so 3x plus 10. All right, if you need to pause this, maybe ask a question, feel free to do that in class. If you are doing this remotely from home, then please let me know if you're still confused after you finish watching this page, okay? All right, let's try another one. Let's try number 4. All right, so first thing I'm going to do on number 4 is I'm going to check to see if any of those divisions don't work. All right, so if I check this first one, 5 divided by 0, that's going to be undefined. I can't do that. But 1 divided by 4 is a negative 1/4. And again, I could check those in my calculator. Let's write that out. Negative 5 divided by a 0 is going to give you undefined, but a negative 1 divided by 4 is going to give you negative 1/4. All right, so my k's do not match. I'm going to go ahead and cross this guy off. He is not direct variation. That means we're going to have to figure out our pattern, okay? All right, so if we zoom this guy in, let's start with our slope. I'm going to be using these guys for my y's, so 3 minus a negative 1, and then these for my x's, so 8 minus 4. Let's put that in our calculator. Make my big fraction, control divide, 3 minus a negative 1, and then on bottom, 8 minus 4. That gives me my slope is 1. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. M is 1. Next thing we need to do is try and figure out what our b is. Remember, your goal is to try and find a 0 for your x. That would tell you where you hit the y-axis. But I get lucky this time, guys. I already have that point. My b then is negative 5. So let's go ahead and write our final equation. My equation is y equals my m, which is just a 1x, and we know that we don't put the 1 in front. We just know that it's there. It's an imaginary one. And then my b is a minus 5. That is my full answer for problems 3 and 4. If you need to pause that and copy down anything so far, you are welcome to do so. All right, last one, number 5. Remember that we should always check for direct variation first, so I'm checking this out with doing my y divided by my x. 27 divided by a negative 3, I get negative 9. 18 divided by a negative 2, okay, I get negative 9. We might get lucky here. 9 divided by a negative 1, so far so good. Negative 4.5 divided by 0.5. And last one, we got a negative 36 divided by 4. All of those came out to be negative 9. So because all of them gave us the same k, then we say yes, that is direct variation, and my equation is y equals negative 9x. If you need to pause this, write down anything you missed from this page, go ahead and do so now. Otherwise, I'll meet you on the next page. All right, next page I think is a little bit easier. There's less kind of calculator process going on, less things to check over and over and over, and it's more this is what you do every time. First of all, I want to make the correction up at the top in the directions. It tells you solve for the constant of variation. So this vocab word here, constant of variation, that's our k. It's not the y, it's the k. And when you write your final equation, you won't be using y. You'll be using the letters given. So if you will change that direction just a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We write down these 4 steps. Kind of just write them in between 6, 7, 8, and 9. Try not to make them take up too much space, but we're going to write the letters in order. We're going to plug in our values that we know. We're going to solve for our constant, which is k. And then we're going to write our final equation with our value for k in it. Okay? Every problem will pretty much look exactly the same 4 steps. All right, so let's get started with problem number 6. It says the height h, so I'm starting, the height h of a board varies directly. So the varies directly part, that's like your equals k. It varies directly with the weight. So I'm going to do with the weight, w. Okay, let's kind of do that same step for number 7 and 8 just to make sure we got it. Number 7 says the cost c of getting a house painted varies directly. Remember, varies directly is my equals k part with the hours worked. So kh. If I did the same thing on 8, it would say the weight w, so w, of a plank varies directly, so equals k, with the length L. So I put my L at the end. That's all that write it in order means. Take that first yellow sentence, write your variables in the order that they're read to you, okay? All right, second thing that we're going to do is plug in our values. So I have 2 letters that I can plug in for, H and W. I have to make sure that I know which number is which. So the H is my height, the W is my weight. So on this one, it says an 11-foot tall board. So 11 foot, that is my height. So let's put 11 in here. And then 242, that's the pounds, that's the weight, so 242. I'm going to keep the equals k in my problem because I'm going to need that. That's what I'm solving for, right? All right, so if I'm trying to solve for k on this one, I need to get rid of the 242 so I can get k by itself. Notice that these are multiplying, so to undo multiplication, I need to do division. I'm going to divide both sides by 242. The 242's cancel, and I get my k. Let's type this in our calculator. We're going to do 11 divided by 242. Simplify that fraction. It is 1 over 22. All right, so let me show you one more time. I'm going to use the pink highlighter. We are going to take our k and plug it into our original equation, going back to the other letters. So that should look like this. We go right back to h equals. We end it with a W. The only difference is I am putting my number in where the K was. All right? So all I'm doing is plugging it back in right here. Let's try number 7. Number 7, I'm going to plug in the 2 numbers that they gave me. So I know the cost and I know the hours. My cost is going to be $300. My hours is 20 hours. So I'm going to keep the equals K. And if I need to get k by itself, that means I'm dividing by 20. The 20s are going to cancel. Let's type this in. So we're doing 300 divided by 20 gives me 15. So that means my k is 15. I've already plugged it in. I've already solved for k. Now I need to take that 15 and plug it back into my original equation. So I keep the c, keep the h, but I'm just plugging the 15 in where the k was. You'll notice it's going to be the same process every time. Plug in the 2 numbers, divide it out to get k. Whatever you spit out, you drop that back into the number, or drop that back into the equation, okay? If you need to pause it, copy anything on 6 and 7, do that now. Otherwise, we got 3 left. Awesome. All right, number 8. We already wrote this guy out. We are saying the weight of the plank varies directly with the length, so we need to plug in our two numbers. A 6-foot plank weighs 45 pounds. All right, so my weight, that's going to be the 45. The length is going to be the 6, and I'm keeping my equals k. To get k by itself, I need to divide. Divide out that 6, and I ran out of room, so we're going to put it here. My k equals 45 divided by 6. That gives us a fraction, 15/2. So I'm going to take that same k value and plug it right back into my original equation. Keep the w, keep the l. We're just plugging the 15/2 into that number, or into that equation. All right, number 9. The volume of a tank varies directly with the height. So we're going in order. Volume varies directly with the height. I have two numbers they gave me. A 400 cubic foot tank, cubic foot, I don't know what that means, is 25 feet tall. Okay, so 25 is definitely my height. That must mean that 400 is my volume. So we're going 425. I'm keeping the equals k. We know to get k by itself, that means we need to divide by who's with him. So we're going to divide by the 25. The 25s are going to cancel, just like the 6s did. And to get my k, I'm going to type that in my calculator. So we got 400 divided by 25. That gives me 16. So we're plugging it right back into the final answer. Keep the v, keep the h, but we're plugging the 16 in for the k. We have one last question, and then I'll pause it so you can copy it. All right, we're writing it in order. The height of a tank varies directly with the volume. So H equals K, V. Again, they gave us the same two numbers, so we know the volume is 400. We already learned that. And the 25 foot tall. The difference here, even though they're the same numbers and we're still using V and H, is that now we're backwards. This one started with H equals. The other one started with V equals. So our numbers are going to be plugged in a little bit differently. We keep our equals K, but we're plugging in 25 for my height, 400 for my volume. So this time, who's with K? Hopefully you're seeing that there's a 400 that we need to get rid of. So we're going to divide by 400 on both sides. This is not the same answer, guys. If you type in 25 divided by 400, you should not get 16. You should get 1/16. All right, so if that's my K, we're plugging it right back into the original. Keep the H, keep the V. I'm just plugging the 1/16, my bad. 1/16 into my answer. All right, let me zoom this page out. If you missed anything on the screen, please go ahead and write it down. Otherwise, we are done with the notes. Y'all have a great day.